Welcome to Overcaffeinated and Out of Effs, the podcast for burned out, career-minded moms who are ready to stop pretending everything's fine and feel like themselves again. I'm your host, Christy Gamir, burnout coach for moms, licensed therapist, and mom of two. And I'm here to help you reclaim your energy, your identity, and your peace of mind. Whether you're lying awake thinking about the 87 things you didn't get done, or silently resenting the people you love most, this is your space to feel seen, supported, and not so alone. So grab your coffee, hot, cold, or day old, and let's get into it. Hey everybody, it's Christy. Welcome to Overcaffeinated and Out of Effs. In today's episode, I'd like to welcome our guest, Alexandra Goldwell. Alexandra is a clairvoyant somatic specialist with over 30 years of experience empowering women to connect with and trust in their bodies, emotions, and inner wisdom. In recent years, one of her specialty areas is in supporting women to heal and prepare before pregnancy, specifically helping them overcome fertility challenges and ready the body physically, emotionally, and spiritually for this identity-shifting role. So I've invited Alexandra here today. She's going to share a bit about her own personal burnout story, which includes divorce, single parenting, and a cancer diagnosis. She is also going to share her expertise as a somatic specialist, along with strategies for helping burned out moms to prevent and overcome the burnout. So, Alexandra, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Christy. I'm excited to talk with you and hopefully offer some service to moms listening.
Yes, I'm so excited too. Do you mind just by starting off and telling us a little bit more about yourself and the season of motherhood you're in right now?
Yes, I'm in a later stage. My child is almost 16 now and now co-parenting, whereas in my really hardest burnout stage, I was single parenting much more, and that was very difficult. But now I have a lot more spaciousness, which is quite something. And work has changed over the years as lots of people's careers evolve. But I have always been, since age 20 anyways, in therapy and counseling and healing in some form. So now there's just a slightly different focus. I love empowering women and moms because we have such a unique and important role in this world.
Yes, no, absolutely. Well, and one of the things that I really love, when people come on to this podcast is to, hear stories because we all have a story, especially one that involves burnout in some way, whether we're trying to prevent it or maybe we've experienced it before. And I know that you have said that you've also had that. And so, and you mentioned that your biggest burnout experience specifically was after you went through your divorce.
Yep.
Again, when you were in the midst of single parenting and then with your cancer diagnosis. And so, before I want to hear all about, your professional work and those sorts of things. But before we do you mind just telling us a little bit more about maybe that time in your life?
That period. Yes, of course. Because when I think of burnout, that's what I think of. Although there had been previous times of real exhaustion in my life and times of needing breaks, this was a huge, you could say, wake-up call, but it was just a huge lesson learning for me as a healer, as a practitioner, as a woman, as a mother. I didn't expect how difficult it would be being surprised after a divorce where I thought we were moving into kind of equal co-parenting. That didn't happen. I wasn't supported financially. So a lot of what I expected didn't happen. And I was thrown into new circumstances really quickly. And the years of that process took a greater toll on my body than I could have understood at the time. I didn't know the extent of what it was taking from me. I really prioritized parenting and biking my kid to school or playing with him whenever I could. And there was all kinds of soccer and sports and baseball and commitments. And as an independent, working woman, and I think women today often are so capable. I've always been very capable. I
Yeah.
just full on did what was needed. and yet was really struggling and didn't have enough time for my developing my own work, kind of barely getting by financially. And although I could keep up with walks and some of my yoga and meditation, and everybody around me thought I was doing well, I felt deeply alone,
Mm.
um, despondent almost because
Mhm.
although the adrenal system keeps you running, there's a lot of high function
Mhm.
from an outward perspective. I was having trouble sleeping. I was worried all the time. I
Mhm.
was worried all the time of just me, my son, like him seeing his dad, his emotional m- backlash, like of the whole process. I wasn't really thinking about myself so much, but just
Yeah.
managing life. And that was the greatest stress of my life, I think, that period that I'd ever
Mhm.
experienced. And the loss of that marriage was a loss of a best friend to me. I really didn't expect that all of a sudden we would have no contact and there would be hatefulness towards me and that that person wasn't parenting.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, it was just a lot of circumstances coming together that
Yeah.
after some years resulted in a cancer diagnosis.
Okay, my goodness. Well, and then to your point, I mean, you had said that a lot of this was a very unexpected, these are very unexpected circumstances. You mentioned how, women are capable, which we absolutely are. I
Mhm.
completely agree with that. Women are capable, but I also think, part of that, means that it affects expectations, right? It affects expectations for
True.
ourselves, the expectations other people have for us. This idea that because we are capable of doing things, we should be pushing ourselves to do things, and then we end up
Yes.
taking on too much, and it's juggling everything on our shoulders, and it has an effect. And
Mhm.
then you had mentioned that, so after a period of time of going through all of this, then you had your cancer diagnosis. I assume at that point you were still single parenting.
Yes,
um
yes, and, I
yeah.
still am. Just a few years ago, it
Yeah.
moved to kind of equal co-parenting. But, that was a real shock because I all my life, I'd been into health since teenage years and had never stopped doing yoga, eating whole foods. I really loved learning about diet, was a daily kind of walker and meditator and all this sort of stuff. But what the learning was for me, cancer is a very specific thing, and for many people is extremely scary. It was shocking for me, but I asked what is the purpose of this for me? And I was used to learning from my body and not dealing with doctors all of my adult life.
Mhm.
Um, so when I asked, like, what is the learning for me? The answer inside myself, and this is what I'm talking about with trusting your body. I had a few decades of practice at that already. The answer for me was, you're going to do this differently and you're going to talk about it. I
Mhm.
made assumptions about what that was, but that message at least made sense for me given who I was and other
Mhm.
things I'd healed in my body by myself before. But I made errors in that too, as that independent, high functioning woman,
Mhm.
um, who wasn't used to, even since my parents say since I was a toddler, always wanted to do things on her own, didn't want
Yeah.
somebody to help her.
Yeah.
So I was still that, here in
Mhm.
in the
Yeah.
40s.
Mhm.
Um, it's not even a thought almost to ask for help in certain areas.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
so out of my realm that I didn't know that I needed to learn that.
Yeah.
So that was a big part of the lesson as much as I learned as a healer, as a somatic specialist, a somatic therapist, which was amazing, and I'm super thankful for it.
Mhm.
Um, it was crucial for me to learn to humble myself in a way, to
Yeah.
say, I need help. But it did take me a few years. I went through the cancer for some years. It wasn't until kind of the third year where I went, oh my God, like, I don't know what to do. And
Mhm.
that time, then I really had to ask for help.
Well,
in a
and
big
again
way.
well,
Yeah.
and again, and I think that, that's something I mean, obviously, you were going through, um, these really big things, that these health things that you're dealing with, again, being a single parent, dealing with all the things, and even aside from that, I think that that's one of the things so many moms struggle with is this idea of asking for help. Because again, this idea that
Yes.
we should be able to handle everything, we should be able to do it on our own, we shouldn't, we should be able to do it easily. These messages that I feel like we're getting through society makes it really, really hard. But to your point, being able to ask for help is something that I think is really, really important. Our support systems are incredibly important when it comes to managing these difficult kinds of things because, it's pretty much impossible to deal with things completely on our own, right? Like we
I know,
need
and
to be yeah,
we're
go
just
ahead.
not meant to be alone.
Yeah.
And so, I don't regret, but I'm sorry for my own development of my personality that felt she needed to keep everything to herself. So I learned
Yeah.
that at an early age. And of course, that comes from women, like mothers and grandmothers before me in my lineage, and
Yeah.
and from the male line. Like, there's various things that contribute to that. However, I was the one to learn from it in this particular way, and it took me a great deal of time. And so, my wish is for women and boys and men to get this earlier in life. Like I want
Yeah.
you to be able to get that and be able to communicate when you're struggling, communicate when you feel alone, or communicate that maybe I need some help, but I don't even know what to ask for. Because the thing about burnout, and when you're really running at a certain level, um, it doesn't feel like there's really time to assess your own needs,
Yeah.
and that feels like an extra job somehow.
Yeah.
Like, well, and if somebody asks you, one of your good friends asks you or something, "Well, what do you need?" or "Are you okay?" My answer was always like, "Yeah, I'm doing good. I got out for my walk today. I did, my kid is doing well," because I was. Like, that
Mhm.
wasn't untrue.
Mhm.
It's simply that I didn't know when I was quiet in my room alone at night and having trouble sleeping, or awake at night worried about making ends meet.
Yeah.
It was that stuff that I could have spoken more about, or said, "Look, I don't know if I can do it. I don't I'm worried and I'm stressed every night and I'm not sleeping well."
Yeah. Well, and I'm really glad, that we're talking about this. I mean, I do think that I mean, to your point, a lot of these messages that we've learned, a lot of these expectations have been around a long time before us.
Yeah,
And I do think that it's important to be having these conversations so that we can start to shift that on a larger scale. And that's
yeah,
really one of the goals of this podcast, right? Is to help everybody, hear these things from other people so that we can start to change the narrative, so we can start to change the expectations so that people can realize, hey, I'm really not alone. There are so many other women who are going through,
exactly.
their own stories, but a lot of similar kinds of themes, right?
Yes,
And so, yeah, and I think it's just really important for people to be able to hear this. So not only so they know they're not alone, but also so they can feel more empowered to make those kinds of changes, to ask for help, to speak up when they feel like they really need it.
yes.
And then maybe even before that point too, to
I
try to
know.
prevent them
This is the
getting that
thing.
way.
Prevention, prevention, prevention. When I was
Yeah.
early in psychology in my youth and I was working with youth counselors, working as a youth counselor with young people and young families, sometimes parents that were like 18, 19, 22,
Yeah.
Um, it was easy to see with children that had very stressful upbringings. It was easy to see, like, "Oh my goodness, you gotta work with the parents, though." And then
Yeah.
once you talk to any of the parents or somebody who's going through an addiction, you're like, "Oh, well, it came before them." So, I knew that early on,
Mhm.
and, it's can be hard to be the one who's creating the change,
Yeah.
and this is why women are so powerful and important as primary caregivers still of future generations, is we need to be the ones to say, like, "Yes, I've done this," or "Yes, this doesn't really work," or this is totally messy," when you try to go it alone or you don't. really understand even the depth of your own needs. Or I've asked so many times women in therapy all my life, probably hundreds, what do you really need?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
most often, that's a very difficult question. You know, the
Well,
person will say, like, this thing on the surface, "Well, I just need more money. Well, I just need
yeah.
more time." No, that's not actually it. I'm
Yeah.
asking, what do you need? What does your heart need? What does your body need? What does your emotional, spiritual self need? And so, I always have a list of needs still with clients today. So we can look at needs and say, like, which one of these do you think are most important for you to pay attention to? And you know that as a coach.
Yeah.
It's it's something to teach our children and future generations and young people in their younger adulthood is like you have mental, emotional, like intellectual, emotional, physiological, and physical and spiritual needs. And they're
Yeah.
all kind of unique and they all matter.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And then going back to what you were saying too about how it really starts with the parents and how we need to be shifting the narrative. And one of the things that I think so many people struggle with too is that this idea of you know, that they should be prioritizing everybody else, that they shouldn't necessarily be putting
Yes.
themselves first. And there can be some guilt that comes up with that and those sorts of things. But one of the things that I like to really emphasize with people too, and just sort of remind them is that when you do these things for yourself, well, not only is it absolutely okay and necessary, you deserve
Mhm.
to be taken care of as well. But for people who really struggle with that idea, is also reminding them that when you take care of yourself, when you do these things, when you tend to your needs, when you ask for help, when you do
Mhm.
all of that, you're also modeling those things for your kids. You're also
I
teaching
know.
your kids. And because they learn through what they see, they learn through observation, they learn through experience, they learn, from what we are doing. And so not only if are we helping ourselves, but we are really helping them grow up knowing that they are important, their needs are important as well, and it is okay to
Mhm.
prioritize those things.
Yeah,
So
100%. We need to model it for our kids as hard as it is. And it's just part of the development of acting on your own needs, or you could say having an adequate self-care in your life, or actually truly loving yourself and your body. It's part of the
Mhm.
development of that process and growing in that process to go through the phase of guilt around it.
Yeah,
Because most every
absolutely.
woman and men too will have guilt around it. And
Yes.
so everyone has to go through that. It's part of undoing the narrative of past generations and the legacy that we've inherited of, some families are very strong around work is more valuable than leisure time. That's selfish. That's lazy. We have to undo all those things and value more our happiness, our joy, our well-being, our it can
Yeah.
all and trust in the process, like
Yeah.
trust. Just trust in life that
Yes.
it could all work out. It could if I do these things that feed my joy and feed my happiness, we still will be taken care of. I still will be excellent at my job. What if there was another there that was possible? So I love inviting in all work, whether that's preconception work or working with women on coming into their bodies and understanding regulation and really healing generational patterns. You have to keep the focus and train the mind to think about more is possible than I've ever
Yeah.
known. More is
Yes.
possible than my family has known. You know?
Yes. No, I couldn't agree more. So, let's talk more a little bit about your work as a somatic specialist. So we've been talking about burnout, and you were talking a little bit about your own experiences with it. For the people who are listening, can you maybe explain in simple terms what burnout actually does to the nervous system and the body?
Mhm. Yeah, let's talk about various things because it will disrupt your sleep rhythm.
Mhm.
Sleep issues. It will
Mhm.
lower the immune system response. It will, like most people know, it elevates cortisol. So you're running on a cortisol response, which just causes dysregulation. Um, you kind of are in that chronic activation of the sympathetic, like I need to go, that fight flight. Like, we
Mhm.
gotta keep going, and so it becomes harder to go into the rest and repair and the receptivity state, the receptive state. And so this is crucial for women who wanna get pregnant. They
Mhm.
often don't have the ability to rest into that state. But this is also very common for the average busy, competent person
Yeah.
who says, "I can't meditate, I can't slow down, my mind's too busy." That is an excuse, and I understand it. Like, I taught meditation for years and still do teach breath work and such, because it's necessary. It's part of the process, again, of what you go through when you want to learn how to, shift your brain waves, shift your physiology, drop from the head to the heart, drop from the head to the heart and the body. And for women, I emphasize the womb as much as the heart. Yeah, there's these constant things that are alerted in our body that you just stay in a cycle. We have to go right to the cycle and undo it, like pull it apart, the nervous system cycle that's been established. Um, and again, we've mentioned ancestral inheritance, and over time, I came to see in people's bodies their electromagnetic field. So for me, when I see an established pattern in the energy
Mhm.
that is keeping one stuck in a nervous system, let's say panic or overdrive,
Mhm.
that we want to get right to that root and identify that root and see it dissolve. For me, when I'm working as a healer, I stay with that energy until I see it dissolve and dissipate. So that
Mhm.
tension that is energetically in the tissues, the blood, the bones, sometimes even the muscles, yeah, it
Mhm.
needs to dissolve. Now, that's not, as that happens, it's pretty magical and cool because it's identifying the root rather than dealing only with symptom. We have to do
Mhm.
all,
Mhm.
and the person has to follow through. But it's a
Mhm.
lot easier to follow through with changes of, I don't know, your own self-care, taking time off, setting clear boundaries, using your voice to say what you need, to take time to listen, whatever it is in terms of the self-care. It's a lot easier when that root cycle has been identified and dissolved.
Mhm.
So people are full of those types of inherited things. Like,
Right.
all of us are. That's just the way it is. It's passed on.
Well, and you've talked about, how overcoming burnout, it has to do with, you said, trusting the body, deepening into its wisdom, and, healing of the feminine and ancestral patterns, as you've been talking about, just
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
And I'm wondering if you can just explain a little bit more what you mean when you talk about, um, trusting the body, deepening into its wisdom. How do you suggest or recommend that women go about beginning to do that?
Yeah, it's a good point because there's so many avenues in, and I'm sure our listeners, people know that there's so many avenues in. You go with what's easy at first in terms of what's easier for you, whether, that's gardening, helps you slow down, or the person is an artist or plays an instrument or something, then do that more. When you really want a shift that's faster or more effective, then sometimes people have in their mind, "I don't wanna do therapy, like, I don't wanna talk for years."
Mhm,
There's an idea about that.
mhm,
Um, it doesn't have to be years. So, yes, some people will be inclined to go to therapy, and they really need to talk through things because it slows them down and it makes you prioritize that 1 hour every week or a few times a month.
right.
And some people just want, like, just get to the point. I want to deal with this. So
Mhm,
that's more working with somebody like me who we're just going to go to the root. There's not much story, and we want to see that dissolve. And then you have to do this follow through, which I support people on. Um, but in terms of the what trusting the body and healing the feminine, like, where do we start? Well, we have to start with an intention, like, from your work. Like, a person has to want it. Nothing
mhm,
ever changes until your desire is pretty darn high.
mhm, right.
So when the desire is there, and then
Mhm,
you make a decision. So a
mhm,
woman makes a decision and says, like, I don't wanna do it this way anymore. There's gotta be
Mhm.
some other way to do
Mhm.
to do my life. You don't have to quit your job or, like, stop parenting but what if there was some other way? So, if she has the high desire, she makes the decision,
Mhm.
and she looks for resources.
Mhm.
What's the first thing I would do? Maybe the first thing is she takes a day off and just goes and sits by some trees. I don't know.
Mhm.
Like, there has to be some decision, high desire, and then you look for resources and you decide. Because this could mean a retreat for you to start you off in recovery. This could mean all sorts of understanding about your nutrition and deal
Mhm.
with adrenal stress from that angle, as well as maybe you're gonna go into acupuncture. It's profound for helping you slow down. You're gonna work with somebody like me to deal with ancestral issues. You're gonna work with a coach to keep you on track. Like, you have to have the high desire
Mhm.
and look holistically, right? Like, mental, emotional, food, physical, exercise, deep rest.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and I think too, with change, I mean, to your point, there has to be this high desire, and I think a lot of times people they get to that point after a lot of times people recognize that there's a problem before it becomes
Yes.
gets to the point where they're ready to change it. And, a lot of times they're ready to change it once the problem has become so great that it's feeling so unmanageable
True.
that they just don't really know how to keep moving forward that way. And I think it's also important to really help people. We were talking earlier about prevention, right? So when we do recognize that there is a problem, starting to put strategies, implement things,
Mhm.
put things in place, because really, ideally, we want to be, trying to help people
Prevent. Yeah.
from yeah, exactly, before it
Yeah.
gets to that point where it's feeling, so unmanageable that people are in a state of crisis and they're really struggling.
100%.
But unfortunately, to your point, a lot of times that high desire comes when the problem has become so great that they just, it's not working for them anymore.
I know, and sometimes that's a marriage falling apart or, like yeah, but so hopefully we can prevent more and more women will make choices earlier on to go, "I
Mhm.
think I'm on the path of burnout," right?
Yeah.
"I think I'm getting there," and make some decisions. It's
Yeah.
the earlier you can make a decision, the better, right? And prioritize your own self-loving practices,
Yes.
and healings, because you won't us in the female body, you won't ever feel deeply settled without knowing your own feminine energy and trusting it. Like,
Mhm.
understanding this body, this
Mhm.
intuition, its messages, how it talks to you. And so when I say this body, I even mean the mind, the subtle senses, the instincts, the subtle, like, little twinges of intuition, however people receive that. This is a priority for those who want to have more of their own wisdom, feel happier, um, know what's possible for them,
Yeah.
a woman and a mother, you know?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And again, as we're talking about prevention, one of the things that is really important is to have a degree of awareness, right, of how we're living our
Yeah.
lives, how we're being affected by it, what's going on. And so with that in mind, I'm curious, are there any daily habits that you can think of, maybe things that women do regularly that is maybe
Yes.
unknowingly contributing to that burnout?
Yes, I think one of the things that we contribute to burnout, and I look back on myself at different times in my life too, is the thoughts of not enough and
Mhm.
feeding that thought over and over again. And I mean not enough as in time, not enough as
Mhm.
in energy, and it might be not enough as in money, not enough as in love, not enough as in attention. So the mind will always tend towards lack. That's
Mhm.
nothing unique in anyone. The mind tends towards lack, and so we have to train it, and it's harder when you're tired, when you're not rested. It's harder when you're around people who, I don't know, tend to complain or so it's
Mhm.
important to notice what your environment is
Mhm.
and really check your own thoughts and really check what comes out of your mouth. Usually
Yeah.
is one of the first signs or ways to practice is even if you hear thoughts of, I just don't have enough time, I just don't have enough energy, try to stop yourself from saying it aloud.
Yes.
And then when you notice it more, you stop yourself from saying it aloud. When you notice it more, you go, okay, well, is that really true?
Mhm.
Is that really true? Okay, yes, today, right now, I don't have enough energy. But does energy always return and get replenished? It does if you give it the opportunity.
Mhm.
It does if you know how to rest. It does if you
Mhm.
learn how to replenish yourself.
Mhm.
So I think that just the consciousness of lack is a huge piece and it
Mhm.
gets caught in cycles.
Mhm.
And another belief is I can't. So it's related to lack, but
Mhm.
it's a clear thought and it can have anything at the end of the sentence. I can't blank.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
no, absolutely. Well, and yeah, and I talk to people a lot about mindset stuff too, and you had mentioned stop, being aware of it, stopping it from coming out of your mouth. And I think I absolutely agree with that. And then also, even when you're not speaking it out loud, just recognizing even how you're thinking about it, what you're saying to yourself, because
yes.
our brains believe the things that we tell ourselves sincerely, and language is so powerful. I think sometimes people don't
Yes.
recognize how one word, like, might not seem very significant, but it is. Like, one small word can really change the interpretation of a message. It can change the way that we feel about things. Like when you say it can't,
Yeah.
that is a very powerful word. And when we use that word and then our brain is believing it, I mean, I'm sure people can imagine and understand how that might then affect how they feel, decisions that they make, choices that they make, those sorts of
Yeah.
things.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
Mhm.
so important. So another thing is in the midst of your daily busy schedule, start practicing bringing in what in short bursts whenever you can,
Mhm.
bringing in recognition of when you smiled that day. What makes
Mhm.
me smile? Oh, it was nice to hear my kids' laughter. Um,
Mhm.
oh, somebody smiled at me on the street. I love it when people, smile at each other. And can you bring that in for yourself? One of
Yeah.
the things that helps us be more aware of that is tuning into the breath. So
Mhm.
if we could take 2 minutes, because you can do this anytime when you're
Mhm.
driving, when you're doing something for your kid, when you're cooking, when you're working, is Andrew Huberman talks about this too, but I'd been doing it for a few decades as a yoga instructor and a meditation instructor, and I was so happy because he's so popular. Um, that he also said it, as a scientist. So this breath of breathing in the nose as deep as you can, taking a deep breath in the nose and exhaling with an open mouth. It might be a sigh, but it might just be like blowing out your mouth.
Mhm.
And you can do it when people are around, you just do it more quietly.
Mhm.
But if you did 5 of those or even 3 of those, when you have time and ability to focus, you do 10 of them
Mhm.
or put your timer on for 2 minutes or something.
Yeah.
Then that has an ability to shift the nervous system and start to rewire the neural networking. And this is what we want because when somebody's in burnout or on the path to burnout, it's a lot harder for the body to recover. The
Mhm.
recovery time, they're not getting enough recovery time. So even those short bursts, 2 minutes, 1 minute, a few times a day are telling your brain and body like, okay, we know how to do this. This is what we
Mhm.
just want a little bit of space. And it helps reset your thought. It will stop a thought cycle for that 30 seconds or 1 minute or 2 minutes
Mhm.
and gives you an ability to shift perspective if you need it.
Mhm.
It's not the same breath as to use when you need more energy or if you're in the midst of a panic attack. You can't do that.
Mhm.
But it's a preventative and nervous system resetting beginning. Really important for regulation.
Well, and one of the things that I love about it too is that, to your point, it can be done anytime throughout the day. So even people who are busy, because we all are, and
Yeah.
a lot of times people, one of the things that they struggle with when it comes to doing, these practices that really take care of themselves is they don't feel like they have the time. It's like one more thing on my list. But with breathing, I mean, like you said, you can really do it anytime. It does not take a lot of time. And so there's really, that barrier is not there the way that it might be with some other,
Exactly.
strategies that could be available.
Exactly. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, so it's an easy way to start,
Yes,
and that just needs to be a
absolutely.
focus and an intention, like, things start with this clear intention, right? Like, I
Yes.
want to do something, I want to fit this in somehow, this is really important to me, and then, try fitting in that breath. Use reminder notes or whatever you need to, cue yourself, you know?
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. Or maybe set something, do something to help yourself remember, whether it's, a note or, some sort of a reminder, whatever works for you.
Yeah, a
Different things work for
symbol,
different people.
house. Mhm,
So, can you
exactly.
maybe talk briefly about just the importance, of empowerment of women and then the consciousness around health and our roles? I know you talk about that quite a bit, and like, what would that look like for the modern working woman?
Well, I mean, I get excited about this because I am passionate about impacting future generations. I I want things to be different and easier, like emotionally,
Mhm.
for our kids. I want them to understand themselves. I want them to know how to heal their bodies
Mhm.
and not rely on an outside source. We're so blessed to have the outside sources that we have, and I'm so grateful for our medical system. And I believe everybody should know how to use their own will, thoughts, emotional frequency, um, physical choices, physiological choices to keep their body healthy and well, keep their mind healthy and well, and change their emotional frequency. I believe everyone should know how to do that.
Mhm.
So I get passionate about women and new health consciousness because I'm like, women create change, moms create change. Moms
Yeah.
want things for their kids. So
Yes.
I want things for moms.
Mhm.
So you feel empowered and capable and clear in your own body and trusting of the intelligence of this body, trusting of the intelligence of this mind, this divinity that created you, that is in you. And how do I
Mhm.
access it? I want moms to know how to do that because then they role model to their kids and they speak it aloud to their kids and they help their kids through it. Like,
Yeah.
moms need to be able to help their kid relax. Moms need to understand anxiety. So if their kid is anxious, they know how to help them with that and give them lifelong skills. Moms need to understand depression. Moms
Yes.
need to understand addiction and
Mhm.
everything about burnout, right? So
Mhm.
I get super passionate about it. Like, women can change this.
Yes. Well, and then it goes back to what we were saying earlier, right? Which is all of these things, all of this work that we do to, help ourselves, to help other moms, it's much bigger than that. We talk about how some of these challenges have been around for so many generations, and
Mm.
we are conditioned to think and behave certain ways. And so this is a much larger systemic thing that we really want to be, all advocating for and working towards that change. And when we
Yes.
do these things, it is not just benefiting us, but to your point, it is also benefiting our kids, it is benefiting future generations so that
Mhm.
hopefully they won't have those same kinds of, burnout experiences or whatever else the
Exactly,
other thing might
exactly.
be.
This is what we
Yeah.
want. Yes, this is what we want. So
Yes.
that's I'm
No.
excited about that. I love
Yes.
what you're saying, Chrissy. I get excited about women. Just I'm so grateful to all parents who love their kids and do their very
Yes.
best. And I know everyone listening, you're always doing your very best as I have always done my best.
Yes.
And we can just always learn more and grow more and assist each other and prioritize our own growth because I think I'm saying that for moms because I know you're probably legacy minded like I am. Like, it
Yes.
matters to you how your grandkids will be and how your kids are, right?
Yes, no, absolutely. Well, and I want to thank you too. I really appreciate, taking the time to come and share your knowledge and share your experiences and your expertise because it is so valuable. It is valuable for the people who are listening and those and those who are not. And, I really I know we just all appreciate it and you taking
Thank
the time to
you.
do that. So Where can listeners go to learn more about you and your work?
Yeah, thank you. You can go to alexandragoldwell.com or .ca, and you can always find me on Instagram. You can DM me there. Many of those videos are about preconception and fertility, and some of them are also about health in general. Um, but you can message me anytime for speaking, for work, for a question you have. I love hearing from people. So thank you.
Okay, great. And I will, of course, make sure that all that information is available in the show notes for anybody who wants to learn more about you, to look you up,
Thank you.
and about the services that you provide. So, one final question I always like to ask everybody, if you could leave the listeners with one final message, one final piece of advice, what would it be?
I would just leave you with the message, all you mothers, that you are amazing. Women are powerful and strong and capable. And I know that you're doing so much every day. And I know you love deeply and big. And thank you for that. I would leave you with the message of just acknowledging you um, more
Great.
than maybe you acknowledge yourself.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you for that. And again, thank you for your time and being here today. And then, as always, for the moms listening, if any of this resonates, if you found these things that we talked about today to be helpful or valuable, please feel free to look up Alexandra. Please share this podcast with other moms who could maybe use some extra support because we are all in this together.
Yes.